If you've ever had any one of these desires, I want you to join the Great Lock-In Challenge with me. In this video, you will learn the exact 4-step system to achieving your dreams. Welcome to the LOCK system. Let me first set the stage for what is the existing problem. You make goals when the motivation is high. For example, during the new year, you're able to stick to those goals for a short period of time until you ultimately fall off course. And when you do that, you have this great sense of guilt or shame and perhaps even anxiety that's attached to that failure. So it makes it really difficult for you to return back to that work. You continuously procrastinate on that experience until another year goes by and you realize that you haven't made any significant change to you or your lifestyle. This endless cycle of shame, guilt, and anxiety is what you're currently experiencing until it finally now validates the fact that you are not worthy of the dreams that you've set out for yourself. And in this video, I want to prove to you that it's not true. You've just never learned how to actually build a system that removes the guesswork out of it. So in this video, we'll go over those 4 stages where if you can follow them methodically, I guarantee you will come out of it a completely renewed and transformed person ahead of January 1st, 2026. Step 1, in September, you will finally live your dream. Oftentimes, we are living our lives as a direct reflection of what society expects of us. So we're not actually cultivating a life that's inherently yours, that's uniquely ours. Instead, it is this fabrication based on what your parents wanted for you or what your teacher said that you should do. And so if you took a direct look at your life right now, an honest look, can you tell me how much of it has been dictated by you? How much of it has actually been derived out of your pure intentions? And if you never actually account for that, then you will continuously waste your life away trying to impress people that do not actually matter. So use September as your reset month to go again. And I want you to choose one of these 4 core goals. Do you want to make money, get fit, post content, be productive, or get closer to God? What I've done for you in this video is do the hard work for you. So not only am I going to list those desires, I've also included within them a list of questions that you can ask yourself to ensure that you are selecting the right path for you. Not only that, every single step that follows in this system, you will have a very similar detailed explanation of what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. So I want you to watch this entire video to understand the 4-step system in its entirety, and then rewatch again, selecting your path and actually reading all of the detailed nuances that I've put onto screen for you. This should hopefully take the guessing work out of it and give you an exact template for you to follow moving forward ahead of 2026. It is so important for the Great Lock-In Challenge that you choose just one of these core priorities. Too often, people make way too many goals at once, and it actually divides their attention. And when they haven't successfully even pursued one of these goals, then they're setting themselves up for failure. Instead, if we can choose one path and you can utilize the frictionless template that I will then provide to you once you rewatch this a second time, I promise you, you will be able to transform your life headed into 2026. And then you'll have the confidence to start stacking up these other desires, these other paths as well. Step 2, in October, you will optimize your skills. It is one thing to have this vague desire. It is another to actually make it attainable for yourself. And you do that by understanding that every dream of yours, the bridge between you currently and that lifestyle that you ultimately want to live, are a subset of skills. All skills can be learnable, so that gives you the confidence that, you know what, I in fact can actually reach that. But I want you to also listen to what I'm saying. Skills, it's usually plural. Every single dream that you have is a stack of subsets of skills. It's not just one skill that will ultimately completely transform your life. For example, when I first started creating content, I quickly recognized that there were so many layered skills that I wasn't exposed to from the outside. So when I started to actually develop content, I realized that I had to learn how to plan, how to script, how to research, how to film, and how to edit content. And eventually I had to learn how to pitch myself and how to develop a digital product. You start to recognize that over the course of time, each one of these subset of skills, as they're stacked upon each other, make you more and more valuable within the marketplace. So when I went ahead and developed a social media marketing agency, in the beginning, I was simply doing the research for these businesses as they were trying to develop their presence on short form mediums like Instagram and TikTok. However, I started to quickly realize if I can actually layer that skill in that service, then I can make a ton more money. So instead of me just researching the content, I started to develop the content for them. So I went from charging $1,000 per client to $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 per client. And it was well worth that company's investment because they were getting these layered skills. That's your expertise. So the more layered skills, the deeper you can learn them, then that is when you actually become an expert within that particular field. That is when the leverage is entirely yours. So in the beginning, when you have this vague desire, you have now turned them into an understanding of skills. And on the screen right now, whichever desire that you had selected for yourself, now you are seeing the subset of skills that you need to immediately develop for it. And the goal of this video is incredibly simple. I want to give you the clearest directions possible. Everyone talks about those 5 desires. Nobody talks about the underlying skills that are required to be developed in order to get them. Step 3. In November, you will commit to habits. The goal is to reduce as much decision fatigue as possible. The reality is all of us are very busy in our day-to-day. So for us to sit there for an hour block dedicated to building a skill, the worst case scenario is for us to wonder, how the heck are we actually doing this? Which resource are we pulling from? How are we applying ourselves in that period of time? We have in step 1 identified a desire. Then we moved on to skill. Then we have to take the 3rd step of understanding what are the daily practices that we're committing to. Now on screen, you will see a list of daily habits that you can commit to across those 5 desires. November is when we will start to lose motivation if we haven't already. And the best way to sustain our process, to sustain our progress, is by being able to track our wins and to realize that it's the inputs that actually matter. It's the daily practices that we're committed to that actually matter. So regardless of how we feel, if we can reduce as much decision fatigue and we can track our wins across the week, we will know that we are actually staying accountable, that we're actually staying to the plan. Here's an example. If you had chosen the desire to make content because you have a powerful message within you and you want to help other people, then the skills underneath it may be editing, scripting, and filming. Then your daily practices may look like the following: 30 minutes speaking in front of the camera without a script and paying attention to the removal of filler words, recording B-roll in different areas of the house, potentially outside or in your kitchen, your bedroom, your living room, in the bathroom, and utilizing different angles, and learning to edit on a particular software like CapCut or Instagram Edits. Then you can simply take those daily practices and put it in a calendar where you know that it'll be actually feasible for you to achieve. Or let's say that you want to commit to it every single day throughout the week. Then it's important that the amount of time that you're applying each day is actually feasible. You're not spending 8 hours every single day. You might be spending 30 minutes or 40 minutes or even 20 minutes, but all of that time is actually going to compound in the long run, especially as you track those wins. Step 4, in December, you will keep reviewing. It's so important that you actually start to take a bird's eye view at the work that you've now poured in. And this is the luxury that you actually have after applying yourself. So congratulations, you've achieved a stage that most people will never achieve. But now that you've actually put forward this effort, it's important that we move smart ahead of January. We don't want to be applying ourselves in the ways that haven't worked up to this point in time. So think to yourself, which skills may be not as important as you originally thought? Which daily practices were not as effective as you originally thought? But likewise, which skills were incredibly important and which daily practices were very much beneficial? Then you know which areas to double down on and which areas to move away from. And it is so important that you get these thoughts and reflections outside of your own head and onto a piece of paper. And that's because It is so much easier when you've curated distance between you and your thoughts to better rationalize with them. So what may have felt like in your brain a ton of really great progress may look like on paper a ton of areas of weakness that you need to address. Or likewise, it may be in your brain a ton of mistakes and failure and lack of progress, and on paper you realize you've achieved successes in areas that you've never once had progress in. That is the power of having an ability to reflect on an outside source that's separate from your own brain. If you can successfully do this, you will have stopped the loop. The loop in the beginning was for you to curate these lofty goals and stick to them for a short period of time, and then to fall off course, and then to have a lot of anxiety and guilt and shame. And this cycle that had, up to this point in time, affirmed your greatest nightmares, that you have lack of competency or that you're never going to make it. Now you've stopped that loop. That is what the Great Lock-In is about. So instead of you waiting on to January 1st to do this once again, you make the same mistakes over and over again every single new year. No longer will that be the case, because the person you will be on January 1st to be able to achieve those New Year's resolutions will actually have the character beneath to fulfill upon those dreams. That is what we'll ultimately do, and I am so excited to see your progress. Give this video a thumbs up if it was helpful, and in the comments let me know which path you ultimately selected, and of course subscribe. With that being said, guys, I will see you all at the top.